know me from church, and I've been in. My name is Sarah, and I've been in Canada for about 4 years now, and I've had the privilege to work on the youth board and working with you and meeting a lot of youth. Before I came here, I did work in Sunday school too, and back in New Zealand. That's where I used to live. And I also worked or served the youth at my church. But you know me for this time. You've known me. But I do want to point out a couple of things before I begin to talk. Is that you actually don't really know me. Because, before that, you don't really, it's really quite a recent, it's been a very close relationship with the youth here, but it's very recent. So it is good for me to tell you my background. So before I start, I want you to kind of begin with a clean slate, because you actually really don't know me. And so this is, and we don't, you may know people from church. Maybe there are people who spent 20 years at the same church, and we don't know everybody's experience. So I want you to delete any kind of preconceived notions about who I might be, or don't put anybody here on a pedestal and think they were born in church and there's some kind of youth leader who's here to preach and who's holy and they've been born holy and this is what they do. And so it's not like that. And that's why I'm sharing that. So we'll start fresh. And the other thing I want to say is it's not really a story about me. I'm not here to tell you my life story just because I, have a microphone and I get 15 minutes. But it's something I'm here to tell you about my failures and how God turns things around. And you might think, what does a pregnant woman have to tell me? It's very irrelevant. Some of you here are 13, 14, university. But in summary, I want to tell you, I've seen it all, and I know it all. And nothing you do shocks me, and nothing you know. There's nothing you know that I don't. We come from a culture where everything is, there are rules, and everybody likes to put on a good image. But I have seen everything that's behind. So don't think that it's irrelevant to you. So I'll just start quickly. I was born in Iraq, and my parents were, typical parents, just like all other families. My family was overly religious. I went to church with my grandma. My parents never really pushed me in any, to be religious or anything. They went to church every now and again. When I started to read, and I've shared this before, my dad bought me a picture Bible, and I'm a big fan of picture Bibles because I read mine about 50 times because I like to read. But why this is important is because after many years, I found that I knew a lot about the Bible. And from when I was 6, from reading my picture Bible, I developed this idea of who God is. And I liked him. I liked him. He seemed fair. He seemed very logical to me. I just kind of liked him. No one, my mom used to tell me, Jesus is this, Jesus is that, trying to tell me the basics. But I think at an early age, I made my mind up that I do like God, So that was my start. From my background, education was very, very important. And we've all been, raised to, do really well in school. As I'm sure you all are. You have all been raised with that idea. So my parents always pushed me to do really well in school. And, 8 out of 10 was no option. It's 10 out of 10. If you get 8 out of 10, you will be interrogated. Why did you, it's always excellence. And so it was always, push, push, push. This is what perfection is. This is what you have to do. It's education. It's working hard, getting good marks. And I did really well in school, and I excelled. And it was all like, oh, you're very clever, good girl, that was really good. And that's what society praises too, when you're good in school. That's success, that's achievement. And why I'm mentioning this is because from actually an early age, people start to develop some kind of pride in their ability. So I had, from an early age, I only realized that obviously much later, I'm good at something, and I'm proud of myself, and this built a lot of pride. So I learned to trust my brain a lot. That was my intellectual ability. Like, let's say my academic, a very academic person. So I had the problem of pride. And this is in school, like elementary school. Fast track a few years. When I was 12, because of the war, my parents decided to move to another country, and we moved to New Zealand. And, being 12, moving to a new country that's totally different culture, and I'm sure you all know, there's a huge culture clash. And I didn't realize it at the time. But it was very difficult because I didn't know the language. The culture was completely different. My parents looked like they were from the Stone Age. I didn't know how to fit in. So the only thing I was good at was school. So that's what I focused on. And of course, my parents had to face raising 3 children in a new culture, a new environment. And they didn't really know how to deal with some issues like, oh, why does my friend have a boyfriend? Why does my friend go out late nights? I want to know. As Frida was saying, where's Frida? Yeah, she was like, just heck, just because that you're not allowed. But I guess, I did what I did best, and I again excelled in school, but I grew really, really bitter towards my parents, and really bitter towards this whole culture. I don't really understand. I'm doing it. Excuse me. I'm doing it, and I'm doing my best, but I don't really understand why. And I have all these questions, and I was just a very curious person. Now, over the course of these years, another thing I started to develop a lot of trust in was my instincts. Everybody here has a different personality. And, some of you here may be very, streetwise. Some of you might be, very bubbly, very social. Some of us have, they're very academic. Everybody has something that they know is good. But I wasn't any of that. I was good at academics, but what I learned about myself as my personality grew is I was able to analyze things very well. I was a very analytical person, so I would think very deeply about things. I would contemplate things to death. I would just continue to think and think. So I learned to trust my instincts from an early age too. And actually, a lot of the times I was correct. I'm just going, trust your gut feeling. My gut feeling was correct a lot of the time. But that was another one of my problems, is I learned to really trust myself. Trusted my brain, and I trusted my instincts, and I was proud. And when adults see that, they think, oh, this person is clever, this kid is clever, and they're very mature. They think you're mature because you do your homework and you study and you're not too crazy and you're thinking deeply about things. So they want someone who's adult-like, I guess, and I kind of was proud of that too. So during school, as I was saying, I hated high school because I was different. My parents were different. I never, I had friends, but I never quite fit in. I wasn't allowed to do the things they did. I did what I was supposed to do. I did well, but there was a part of me that was like, I'm not really being myself. There's a lot more to me. I want to go out and explore. I'm curious. And whatever my parents are telling me, I'm not really buying it. I don't think they're right. And, you come at an age, 15, 16, you think your parents are very dysfunctional. You're like, what's wrong with you? So that was me. When I was about 15, 16, my parents came to know the Lord. And I remember they used to take me to some of their Bible meetings, and I used to hear the preachers talk, and I'd sit there and I would think, I like what they're saying, but how could anyone do this? I was like, I'm such a nerd, and I totally suck. Like, my life is so crap. I'll probably end up in hell anyway. I mean, it's not like God cares about people like me. That's what I used to think. But I liked what they were saying. It sounded very logical. And I liked what they were saying about God. And because I told you about my background when I read my Bible, it really went well with what I already knew about God. So, it made me like God more. But I didn't know how to make this reality. What they're asking me to leave the world behind, it doesn't make any sense for a 14-year-old. What are they expecting me to do here? And I remember, funny, one day my mom came and she said, do you know what these people are saying? I said, what? She said, they're saying that God and your faith is more important than your education and degree. And I was like, what? That is blasphemous. Like, what's wrong with these people? So, do you see the mentality? We didn't know God back then. So it was like all these new ideas, this spiritual revolution that my parents were going through. And they never forced me to go. They just kind of told me what they were hearing. They would take me. I liked the word. So I had access to God's word. I had access. I heard the word and I liked it. But that's totally different from living the word, right? But that's how it all started. So as a lot of you might be coming up to, you're coming up to the stage of choosing university. So I worked hard in school and I finally, got my really good grades and I got into the degree I wanted. And my parents were very happy, of course, and I was very excited to get into university. And for me, this was like freedom, like finally, it's actually, I have to say, I was always a very naive person. Like, how some people grow, like, you might be more mature and analytical, but I was always very, in a way, a late bloomer, if you may. Like, I wasn't all, what's the word? Like, caught up on a lot of things. So, for me, I think I was looking forward to university to learn more, and I thought this is the opportunity to satisfy my curiosity. Why? Because I finally got what my parents wanted me to get. So I was like, okay, now I'm in university. You wanted my admission? Here's my admission. Now back off. Really, back off. I don't want you to interfere. I have my marks. I know I'm smart, and I know, I'm trusting my instincts here. So, and you're backwards, and you're old-fashioned, and I just want you to leave me alone. No, I didn't say it like that, but that was really my thinking. And so my experience really was in university. Because here I was with a lot of bitterness and a lot of questions in my head and a lot of curiosity and a lot of, I guess, rebellion. I was mad at society at large anyway. I thought society was backwards. I thought our culture was backwards. I had a lot of anger because I felt people would look at me and think, you're a nerd, or I had a lot of friends who would backstab me, or I had a lot of people who would not take me seriously. So I grew tired of that, and I thought, this is my chance. This is my chance to finally prove who I am and not listen to anybody, because obviously even my parents are not, I don't know why I'm even listening to them. So at university, I set out to do my own thing, which I did. And I did whatever I wanted, and I sought meaning in a lot of things. So it was just going out. I broke all the rules that I had been taught, and it was a journey of 4 years of absolute chaos. Absolute, It wasn't even stretching the rules. It was completely breaking the rules. It was, my parents knew nothing. It was like I had this other life that I wanted to just, would let it all out. And I don't care. Society doesn't give me the rules. I don't care what my parents think. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And my biggest strengths were my biggest downfalls. And that's what I want really to... this is the main thing I wanted to tell you tonight. Because God was there the whole time. Because he kept watching, and he was always there, and he'd always whisper things here and there. And I knew he was there. And I'd say, I think this is God. But I didn't want to listen. But what I want to tell you is my biggest strength, my academic ability, my trust in my brain, and my trust in my instincts, although they were things given to me by God. I have no ownership of these things. But what my biggest strengths were my biggest downfalls, because I came to completely depend on myself and how I think. I completely overestimated myself and totally underestimated how Satan can completely turn things around and suck you in. You have no idea. We are no match. You are no match for Satan. You think you can trust in your intellectual abilities. We are nothing compared to what Satan can do. So I don't want to take too long, but my turning point was after university years and 4 years of doing what I wanted. Then I had to work, and then I went to work, and then all my friends went away. And the other thing is, when I was, enjoying my university life, I would always be miserable afterwards. I was never happy. And my friends would be like, what's wrong with you? We've gone out, we've partied, we've had all this fun. Why are you so miserable? I don't know. I thought this was it. This was what all the kids in high school used to do, and I wanted to be free, and I wanted to find meaning in life, and I thought that's what everyone's following. But I was always miserable. I didn't really know why. So there was always this thirst for more. Nothing really satisfied. Nothing was ever enough. Every time I followed something, it would make me more and more miserable. And in time, it was complete self-destruction to the point where I failed my classes. And I sometimes look myself in the mirror and I didn't even know who I was anymore. And I was like, the one thing I was good at, I'm losing that too. I'm not even academically good anymore. I have lost everything. I'm no longer believing in the same things I believed. My entire belief system has been shaken. My life is absolute chaos. And even and this thing I had, this degree is like, even that doesn't mean anything. I'm losing that too. So I really was losing myself. And, but by the end I finished. And like I said, I went to work. And everyone went their separate ways, my friends. And this is the turning point. I was really miserable. I had started work, but it was just, whatever. I wasn't happy. And my mom had booked tickets to go and to this conference, to this Bible conference. And she was going to take my brother. And she's like, come. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll go. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I'll go and get something out of it. But the real reason why I wanted to go is because my friends lived in that city. They're like, yeah, you come, and we've already got it planned, and this is what we're going to do. I was like, yeah. So then my mom decided to cancel the trip. And I was like, no, but why? And Abraham, my brother, it's his holiday, it's not fair for Abraham, let's go. And my mom never changes her mind, but she did. So little did I know that what I was thinking was actually going to come true. So I went to this conference. You listen to preachers talking. And as I said, I always enjoyed listening to preachers. I always liked how smart the Bible sounded. I always liked them, how they connected points from Old Testament and New Testament. It was all very logical. And God made sense to me. He always made sense. I always liked him. I mean, this whole time in university, by the way, I would always have my Psalms typed up and hung up in my room. It was sincere. I liked God. I still like God this whole time. I'd still read my Bible. I would still hang on to the Psalms. I would still think about God. And I think, if you were real, why don't you do something? Because I'm miserable. I'm looking for something. I'd always challenge him. But I never really, gave my life to him. But when I went to this conference, and usually I'm pretty good, at remembering sermons. A few sermons were fine. Then I went to this one sermon. I don't remember who the preacher was. I don't know what he was saying for the life of me. But we sat down, and then he started talking. And it must have been some topic about, salvation. But by the end, he was really yelling at the top of his lungs, and he was, calling for something, like calling believers to believe. And I don't know what else he said, but the whole hall was, in tears, and all I was doing is my mother was sitting right next to me, and I never sit next to my mom in a sermon. It's rare. But not only did I sit next to my mom, but I was bawling my eyes out. I never cry in front of my mom, but I was completely torn apart. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how it started. And all I was thinking is, God, I'm really tired. Every time I chase something that I think will make me happy, it turns into dust. Everything is meaningless. I've lost myself, and I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know that there is something that you have that I want. So at that moment, I said, I want you. I don't want this. Whatever it is that I've been chasing, I don't want it. I just want you. And in a moment, I felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. And it was almost physical, like it was instant. And I felt like a light just came on. And it's like I was drowning and someone just pulled me out. Like it was that strong. So I didn't, and I keep saying this to people, when we tell youth, accept God in your life, He's not expecting you to come with a template with, a big thing to say, "Dear God, I am a sinner. Please forgive me." There's no point. I probably didn't even know what I was doing, but you just come and you surrender. That's what I did. I probably didn't even know it was salvation at that point. I just knew that what I was in, the world that I was chasing, the idea of happiness that I had no longer worked. The brain that I had has come to nothing. My intellect is nothing. My instincts meant nothing. Nothing. There was nothing. My solid base, the solid base that I thought I had, is absolute nothingness. Every time I followed something, whether it's relationships, whether it's popularity, whether it's party, whether anything you name. And I'm not even going to go into details because I told you I know it all. But whatever it is that you are chasing, it's going to come to nothing. And I want to say there's a lot of focus in our society about education and your brain and your intellect. That's fine, but it will come to zero. It's zero compared to what God has to give you. Even that will fail. So that's how I came to God. And after that sermon, something, like I said, something so powerful happened that I was like, things will never be the same. I was like, I just know it. Something new has started. And ever since then, I have been with the Lord, and of course it's ups and downs, but He's always been there. And afterwards, He would always remind me. He'd say, "Remember the time when you heard this and this?" I said, "Yeah, that was you, wasn't it?" Yep, that was God. Just little whispers. Never forced me. Never bullied me. He never pushed me to believe, but it was me who came. And it was a classical story of the prodigal son. And the day I met him, I was like, "Oh, it was you. That's what I was looking for. I've been, chasing all this garbage this whole time. So it really is you. You're not who I thought you were. You're not, you're not just some God on a pedestal and you're stricter. No, I liked you. I always liked you, but now I know who you really are. Now I know. Now I know who you really are. And that's why I'm still with the Lord. And that's why I serve the youth, because He called me to. Because they are the years where you are making your research in your head about what life is, about who you are, about what's important. And if you don't get it right now, you will struggle. So it's important. These are the years you think you're too young. But when I came to the Lord, I was 21, and I wish I had known Him even earlier than that. That way I wouldn't have had to struggle and had so many misconceptions. So I hope if you take one thing away from this testimony, and it's that don't overestimate yourself. Don't think you're too smart. And I think this actually links nicely with maybe Thamar's talk today about parents are from Mars and we're from Earth. I didn't realize how much my parents were involved in my spiritual life, but they were. They caused a lot of bitterness, but they were also the reason why the people who led me, who introduced me to the truth. But whatever you're searching for happiness, you think is cool to do, don't play with fire. Don't overestimate yourself. You're not that strong. You're not that smart. You're not as smart as you think you are. You're no match for Satan. Before you know it, he'll suck you into something. And you think it's so simple. but He can. But trust in God. It's like if I tell you smoking causes cancer. There's a lot of research behind that, but it's your choice. Some people still choose to smoke. And I'm telling you from real experience that what the world has to offer is a lot of the time garbage. You'll end up nowhere. God is the way. I'm not preaching it because I read it in a Bible. It's because I had dug myself a hole one day, and I was going to really bury myself in that hole. But if it wasn't for God, I probably would have been there still. But God does save. But just open your heart. And if you haven't, then today is the day. Doesn't matter if you're 13 or 14. But don't waste your time. Thank you.